Hey, Teddy K here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video review we take a look at two Samsung phones, the Galaxy S20 Plus and the Galaxy S20, both of which have bigger batteries, bigger screens, and new camera features. The Galaxy S20 and the Galaxy S20 Plus may not get the same notoriety that the S20 Ultra is getting, but they shouldn't be overlooked. These are two phones that are very capable and a lot closer to the Ultra than you might think. Now the screen size is going to be a little bit different. So the S20 Ultra has a 6.9-inch display. Here we have a 6.7-inch display on the S20 Plus, and here we have a 6.2-inch display on the Galaxy S20. So slight differences, at least with this, bigger difference with this. This is easily the best phone for one-handed operation. It's the smallest of the three by far. All three phones now have flat displays. Samsung finally got rid of the curved edges, which I personally wasn't really a fan of, and they've moved back to flat displays, and they just feel better. I just feel like the phones feel nicer and easier to pick up because of that. So internally, there's not too much that's different as far as the processor. So they're still using the same, they're using the same Snapdragon 865 processor across all three devices. Internal storage, RAM, very similar there. The one difference, of course, is that the Galaxy S20 has 128 gigs of internal storage, and that's it. There's no option for 512 like there is with this one. There are micro SD card slots, so if you want to expand the memory, you can do that. No headphone jack on either of these devices, so you're going to have to go wireless, finally, for music. USB-C, fast charging, I mean, they both come with 25-watt chargers. So even these two are very similar in that regard, but there are some differences, and especially with the camera, which I'm going to get to in a second. Now, usability is pretty similar for these. I think a lot of it comes down to ergonomics and just the feel of it. Both phones feel great. They're both premium devices. Screens are fantastic. Anything that you want to watch on them is going to look great. So from that standpoint, you're not missing anything. I mean, the One UI, Samsung's UI, is a little better. The 120 hertz refresh rate is available on both phones, as is the higher 3400 by 1080 resolution. Only thing is you can't use both of those at the same time. So you're gonna have to pick either the refresh rate or the higher resolution. You can't use both. I personally always went with the refresh rate because I just felt like it made everything feel a little bit smoother when it came to navigating the interface on both devices. Didn't really matter which one I was using. So, you know, you may have a different opinion. You may want the higher resolution, which is great. Either one you choose is going to have a bit of an impact on battery life. Battery life is great on both devices. I found it was a little bit better on the S20 Plus, probably because it's a bigger battery than this one. There's a 4,000 milliamp on here, 4,500 milliamp on here. So on battery life, they're both great. I mean, I easily went a full day, but there was a bit of an edge on this one. So I'm going to get to the camera because I think the camera is really where these two start to sort of, veer off a little bit from each other. Now, they have actually very similar internals in the sense that they're using the same, well, I shouldn't say that actually. I should say that the Galaxy S20 Plus has similarities to the Ultra for the most part. It's using the same image sensor. However, there's no 108 megapixel option here. So for example, if I go into the camera settings, there's no option here to shoot at 108. You can shoot at 64, but you can't shoot at 108. So the reason for that is because in the Ultra there's extra processing going on, there's pixel binning going on. None of that's happening here. But there is something else that's going on here, and it applies to this phone too. You may have looked at the specs and wondered, why are the megapixels so high on the telephoto lenses for both these devices? Well, there's a reason for that. It's because of what's physically not there. There's basically no optical zoom in either of these lenses. So even though it's sort of advertised as being 3 times zoom, it's a hybrid zoom. So the optical part is really only 1.06 of that 3 times. And the rest is basically being done by just cropping into the image. So naturally, if you have a higher size, like if you have more megapixels and you have a bigger image, if you crop into it, it's kind of like you're zooming, but not really, because it's not true zoom. I mean, there's no glass really putting you closer to the subject. To put it in perspective, the field of view is 76 degrees on those telephoto lenses. On the main lens, it's 79. That's a pretty negligible difference. So basically what Samsung is doing is that they're using software to kind of zoom in, to crop out the edges of an image to make it look like you're getting closer. This is different from what the S20 Ultra has. The S20 Ultra actually has a 4 times optical zoom on its telephoto lens, which is a big reason why the 10 times hybrid zoom which I actually think is quite good, is better on that phone than it is on these two. Because what happens in this case, if you're shooting a 10 times hybrid zoom with either of these phones, most of it is pretty much all digital. Again, because the optical part is only 1.06 times. So for that reason, you're going to see some differentiation or even some degradation to some degree if you were to compare photos from these two at 10 times hybrid zoom with the S20 Ultra. Now, when it comes to the main sensor, interestingly, the Galaxy S20 Plus sometimes shoots better than the S20 Ultra does. And part of the reason for that is because actually the software is not doing as much work in this case. Again, it's 12 megapixels. The pixels are quite large, so they let in more light, and night mode is pretty good on this phone. I don't know that I saw a huge difference on night mode with this phone compared to the Ultra, to be honest with you. I felt like they shot really, really similarly. And at the same time, you know, if I was using Pro mode, or if I was using, I don't know, any of the other modes, single take or anything like that, I don't know that there was a huge difference really from that regard, or in that regard, I should say. For the S20, you know, this phone, for its size, it has a great camera as well. So a lot of what the other two can do, this thing can do as well. Yes, you know, again, that telephoto lens is not really a true telephoto lens, and the main sensor is similar as well. So you're going to get very good shots with this. Yes, there's no depth sensor and things like that like there is on the other phones, but again, for the most part, the camera, the photo quality on this phone was quite good, as it should be. I mean, this is still a premium device. Just because it's sort of third in this trio, it's still a premium device, and it should be shooting as well as it is. It could be a little better. Samsung needs to make some adjustments, I think, from a software perspective to make these cameras better than they are, but for the most part, they shoot quite well. Now, you don't get the 100 times space zoom that the Ultra has in either of these phones, and that is a good thing. You will get 30 times hybrid zoom, which is okay. I mean, it's sometimes passable. I wasn't a big fan, and again, because you're not getting any optical zoom in on that, it's actually worse. The quality is actually worse on these phones than it would be on the S20 Ultra. So 10 times hybrid zoom I find is the best option to go with, but again, you're taking a little bit of a hit because there's not much on the optical side going on there. Both of these phones are capable of shooting 8K video. That's another reason why that telephoto sensor is where it is, because when you're shooting 8K video, it's actually switching to that lens to shoot that clip. Now, 8K video to me is one of those things that may be viable in the future. It's not right now. I think it's more pertinent and more relevant to shoot at 4K at 60 frames per second. You can do that, whereas you know, the 8K, I don't know. Personally, I don't see the value in it right now because 8K TVs aren't that ubiquitous, and nor is much of the content either. For me, to be honest, if I were to choose among the three phones, I think I'd probably go with the S20 Plus. It strikes the right balance of size, performance, battery life. It just checks off a lot of the right boxes. I really did like the Galaxy S20 though, just for how easy it was to use one-handed. This is a small phone. I mean, it's a 6.2-inch screen. It's not small, but it feels like it is, and that's valuable too. But if you want a little bit extra, I mean, 6.7 is definitely not small either, and it's only marginally smaller than the S20 Ultra. And the camera features that are specific to the Ultra aren't necessarily home runs by comparison. So for me, I think the S20 Plus was the one I would go with. And that's my review of the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus and the Galaxy S20. For the Best Buy blog, I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.